To another Hockey from Home presented by Nationwide Insurance. I'm Bob McElligott, along with Blue Jackets General Manager Jarmo Kekalainen, ready to answer your questions today. If you don't know how this works, it's very simple. Just go to the bottom of your screen. There's a Q&A button. If you'd like to ask a question, go ahead and type the question in there. I will sort through and pick out some questions here over the next 30 minutes to have Jarmo answer. But first of all, Jarmo, haven't talked with you since before, right at the beginning of this NHL pause. What have you and your family and your staff been up to in these last almost 3 months?
We've been busy with the staff. We've been doing all kinds of different things in preparation for whatever may come our way, whether it's this summer, next fall, next season, the draft, the free agency, how the salary cap's going to look like, all these different scenarios that we have to go through. And that's kept our staff very busy. And it actually takes a lot of time when you can't come to the rink and kind of gather everybody together and go through the things at the same time with everybody. You do it individually on Zoom like this, or go-to meeting or FaceTime, and it takes a lot more time than to get all those things, all the communication done than it has taken on a normal day. But as a family, we've been trying to stay as sane as possible, and you know, doing a lot of bike rides outside, walking the dogs probably a little longer than normal, and trying to be outdoors and trying to find things to do. The kids are done with school now, so they got a lot more free time. But other than that, we keep saying that things could always be worse.
It's funny. I think all the dogs are going to be in shock when this whole thing is over, because the dogs have probably had more attention in the past 3 months, many of them, than they ever have. And they've probably taken, as you said, more walks than they've ever taken.
Yeah, they're probably ready to kick us out and get back to their normal days too, where they can just lounge around on our beds and not get bothered or kicked out.
Yeah, that's a very good point. All right, let's get to some of the questions that people have put in here today. And let's just go right to it with the first one. Can we get an injury update on players, especially Alexander Texier? Will he be back for next season or sooner? And that question's coming in from Eric. What can you tell us about the injuries, Jarmo?
I think we're getting pretty close to being all healthy. I think Brandon Dubinsky is the only guy that's going to for sure miss, even if we get back in playing in August. There's a good chance that Josh Anderson even could be ready from his surgery. Alexander Texier is recovering very well and training and skating. Seth Jones and Oliver Bjorkstrand are both skating and should be fully cleared once we start training camp, if it starts in mid-July. So, we're going to have a different looking team. Cam Atkinson will be healthy. He was actually going to play that first game that got canceled. So he was very close already, but now he's fully healthy and ready to go.
You say a different looking team, but what you're actually going to have is the team that you were hoping to see from opening night when the puck first dropped, right?
Yeah, but you never know with the injuries, and there's nothing you can do about some of them. Freaky accidents like we had have nothing to do with our preparation or the way we how strong or well conditioned we are. Sometimes those things happen in hockey, and we were unfortunate this year, but we battled through it, and I think we'll be stronger for it with as a team with the tested depth now that we've seen guys that have been able to come and fill those holes and play very well for us, kept us in the race, and that only makes for a great internal competition when we get back to playing.
All right, you've said something a couple of times already here about returning and when you return and if you can return and all this stuff. Let me just go to this question from Ed, who says there was a report that consideration is being given to a permanent shift of the season, where the season would start around the holidays and go through June with the playoffs in July and August. Have those discussions taken place, and what are your thoughts on this?
I think the league's looking at every possible scenario, and I think at the center of it is that we want to get the fans back into the building. So the longer we push the start of next season, if that's what Ed meant with the start of the 2021 season, the further back we can push it in order to have the fans return safely into our building, the better it is for everybody, the business, the players, the management, the owners of NHL teams, everybody. and that's what everybody wants. We want to see live hockey. Hockey's at its best when it's played in front of live audience and for the live audience. So that's the goal for everybody. But I think the NHL is looking at every possible scenario, whether it's playing for empty buildings like we plan to now in the playoffs, or pushing back the start of next year to have the fans back.
Yeah, and I think kind of to follow up on that question, I saw something that was written that said, "Hey, what happens if the NBA and the NHL find out that they don't mind starting later and going longer?" Because competing with football is a big deal for both of those sports, no question about it. And yes, getting the fans back in the building is utmost priority. But I assume as things go on, that'll let the league evaluate a lot of different things, right?
Yeah, and the good thing about hockey schedule is that we play 82 games in a regular season schedule, and football not quite as many. So there are a lot of dates available, and lots of room for all the sports in the world, because I think people are going to be very hungry to see live sports again.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Look at just the live things that are going right now. There's a lot of things that I think some people might not have gone out of their way to watch, but now you can't wait. You're checking every day to see if there's anything live. And those watching classic games are great, Yarmo. But I mean, how many times can you watch something that happened a decade ago, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's yeah. I think that, like I said, everybody's ready for some live sports and live hockey. Among the hockey fans in particular. But yeah, there's been some great classics there too that we've been able to watch. So it's good to good reminder that hockey's had a little bit of an evolution, but there are some great players in the past, and the players of today are very good and play on a very high level at a much higher pace these days.
Yeah, I think the funniest thing about watching the older games is the athletes and the way the styles that all the games were played, and then the way that they were broadcasted. It seems almost primitive with some of the graphics in the shots. And you think, well, when was this? Like 25 years ago? No, it was about 8 or 10. That's all, right?
How about the goaltenders? How different they look from those classic games. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's like you see no net nowadays. In those days, it was a little bit different. But yeah, there's been an evolution, and some of it's for better, and some could argue that some parts of the game were better those days. But things always evolve and develop and get better. So there's a lot of different things that have made the game a lot faster these days, and what those guys can do at that pace, that speed is amazing.
All right, you were talking about the injured guys a little bit earlier. Adam has this question: will Liam Foudy be able to play in the playoffs?
Yes, Liam Foudy will be eligible to join us when we get back. The junior season is over. That was the rule in the springtime too. If we had had a normal end of the season, and his team London Knights had gone to the OHL playoffs and been eliminated after that, he could have joined us. So now that OHL and the CHL, they've officially finished their season, Liam Foudy is ready to turn pro and join us. So he'll be making the internal competition even harder. We like I said, we tested our depth. He was there for 2 games with us and played very well for us in those games. So he'll get a great opportunity to compete for a spot on our team.
Yeah, and when he played those 2 games, John Tortorella was very honest and frank about it. He said when he couldn't play, he said we missed him. He was very noticeable in our lineup. What does that say to you about the strides that Liam has made in the Ontario Hockey League in preparing himself to be an everyday NHL player?
Big strides. We've seen it on many different young players. You draft them at an age of 18. Some haven't even turned 18 at the draft. So the development's quick, usually, and in most cases, but it's also pretty dramatic on both sides. It's not just the physical development, but the mental side of things is as well. And Liam has grown into a leader in London. He's a captain of the team this year, and has really matured. All the reports from London are very positive about that part of development. And as I said, we saw him here for 2 games, and he wasn't shy at all. He wasn't overwhelmed at all. He wasn't nervous, any of those things. He just stepped in and played hockey just like he played in juniors. And those are the type of guys that usually make that transition look easy. he obviously has a lot of the ingredients to play in the National Hockey League. He's, coming from junior, probably one of the fastest, if not the fastest guy on our team right away. He's got that blazing speed, and he's got a lot of skill as well. So we're looking forward to having him as part of our core group here in the foreseeable future.
I have a question here from Rob Young, who wants to know, were you approached by the league with interest in making Columbus the Eastern Conference hub, or is that something that is kind of, beyond the general manager? Is that more administrative than you?
No, it's a an effort from the organization as a whole. We've, as a hockey operations staff, and Bill Zito has been very involved with that process, our associate and general manager, in providing all the information to the league that what we have here, how we would proceed, what the standards here would be, what do we have as far as the hotels. Mike Priest been leading the effort from the organization side, where telling the league the buildings we have available, the locker rooms we have here, hotels, everything that goes into an NHL team, or 8 or 12 now, as they're talking about coming into a city and making a tournament that runs very smoothly out of it. And that's not an easy task, but I think we have a great case here in Columbus that we could be a host city, and a great one.
And if it were to happen, what kind of an honor would that be for Columbus to be able to be one of those hub cities?
I think it'd be great. I think we do a great job at it. I think that we check a lot of those boxes that are required. Um, Starting from the safety and health point of view, obviously, and then as I said, the facilities, the hotels, the how easy it is in Columbus to move from one place to another. Just the traffic itself, when you compare some of the big cities where you can go a few miles and it'll take you an hour. Here in Columbus, you can go from one side of the city to the other, and it's always seems like it's 20 minutes wherever you go. And the proximity of all the different facilities that we have with the Nationwide, and the practice rink being right at the side of Nationwide Arena, and you get the Schottenstein Center 6 miles away. We got Chiller North. We have all these different options, and that we can give to the teams, and make it safe and convenient.
All right, here's a good question. I like this one, coming in from Adam, who says, what has been your favorite job throughout your career? And I know you've had a lot of different titles and responsibilities and all that. Can you pick a favorite?
Well, it's without a doubt this job that I have right now. It's my dream job. This is what I've worked for on this side of hockey for ever since I retired playing in 1995, and it's been my goal. And now I'm in my dream job, and hopefully for a long time. And so there's no question in my mind. But I've had a great journey to get here. Working with two great organizations in Finland were great times, great memories. Working for Ottawa, start my NHL career, and then for St. Louis for 8 years. The journey is always so many good memories and so many good learning lessons along the way. But this is definitely the one that I intend to keep for a long time.
Isn't it funny that you learn so many lessons and you don't even realize it at the time, because you're always, at least this is how it is in my business as I was climbing up, you always have the eye on the prize, and sometimes you don't appreciate what's right there until you get that prize and you look back and you say, wow, that was so important. Did that happen to you?
Yeah, well, I try to keep it as sort of a life philosophy, that don't always think of the end goal, or the price, as you called it, at the end. It just concentrate on the journey, because you can learn so much from it, and that means just living in the moment, enjoying every day, and I think that you can do a better job by doing that, and not getting distracted with what happened in the past, or what's going to happen in the future. Just concentrate on now, and making the most of it.
All right, I have a question from Craig here, and you were just talking about your experiences in Finland, and Craig would like to know your feelings toward the global series that the Blue Jackets were supposed to play in Finland against Colorado next year. That has been postponed, and wants to know if there are any plans for that to be rescheduled.
Yeah, I think it just gets pushed 1 year forward, and we're planning to go back there in the fall of 21, and we look forward to it. And I think we have a lot of time now to plan that trip even more thoroughly and properly than the trip that was coming up this fall. But yeah, I'm going to be the tour guide, and we'll get a lot of help for anybody from the Blue Jackets organization or the Blue Jackets fans that want to join us on that trip. It'll be a great one.
I got to ask you, because this one was scheduled to be like you would play some games, and you would go over there and play and come back. When the Blue Jackets went to Sweden a couple of years ago, it was to start the season. It was basically play your preseason games, go over. We played another preseason game in Malmo, and then went up to play the San Jose Sharks. Is it, when you talk about being a tour guide, because it seemed like we had a lot of time there, quite honestly. You talk about being a tour guide, is that going to have to be an abbreviated, jamming in kind of a tour, because it's kind of a little block there while the season's going on?
Yeah, I think that because of the time difference, you have to get there about a week early, and so everybody gets adjusted to the different timetable and different rhythm. And there'll be a few days where we can plan a lot of different stuff to see the best of Finland, the best the country has to offer, and Helsinki has to offer mostly, because I don't think there's too much time to travel around the country. But I think it'll be a great trip for a lot of guys that haven't been to Finland, or some of the guys may have not even been to Europe. Um, Especially if we get a lot of fans that follow us, it would be a great way to start getting acquainted with Europe. Finland is a great country, and I think in the fall it'll still be well, somewhat light out. It's not going to get too dark as it would be if we went there in December. But summer is obviously something that is very nice up there. But it'll be nice even in October or November when we go there, and different culture and a lot of different things that our country has to offer.
All right, here's a question from Ashley May, who says, do you think Rick Nash will eventually be hired by the team as with having a major role in team management? Rick came on last year near the end, and you kind of took him under your wing. He's got a regular role this year. What have you seen from Rick as an executive, as opposed to being one of the best hockey players in the NHL?
Well, I would say he has a major role already. He's part of our management group, where we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people in it, and he's he's in all the discussions on whatever decisions we make that are important for this organization and its future, and he's been very willing to learn and dig in and do all the if you want to call it dirty work, but stuff that is not always so convenient. He's been definitely showing us that he wants to get out of his comfort zone and learn all parts of the business, and that's the right way to do it. He has the star status from playing days, obviously, but it's only going to take you so far on this side of the business. But he hasn't thought at all that he should be exempted from any of that dirty work, as I called it. But on the contrary, he's been offering to do whatever it takes to learn and be part of it, and he's done a good job.
And for a guy that came into the league, I mean, immediately and played, he didn't go through the American Hockey League experience, but he's down there. I know he's been down there at least a number of times this past year, watching Cleveland and trying to get a good gauge of the depth of the organization. As it turned out, you were able to see a lot of those guys in Columbus because of the injury situation. But that, I know that's just one of the things that you have Rick doing, isn't it?
Yeah, he's gone scouting. He's done some college free agents recruiting. He's done some amateur scouting. He's done pro scouting. Watching our prospects not only in Cleveland but around the world. So he's done a lot of different things. As I said, he's been taking part in all the conversations when we talk about trades, free agent signings, budgets, salary cap, all that stuff. So I think he's had an interesting year, and we plan to continue with him.
All right, here's a question from Rob, who says, will the league be coordinating some kind of an airlift system to get the players from Europe back to the United States? I think that's one of the big things. I always tell people when they say, when's it going to start again, or when are they getting close? That's kind of my gauge. When the guys start coming back from overseas, because I don't know what a quarantine process is going to be like, if there is one or whatever. How will they get back? Have you had those conversations as general managers?
Not quite yet, as far as the specifics go. We know that the quarantine rules are as of now. They could change. A lot of the players arranged a group of guys from different cities flying private planes, chartered planes, because there are not that many available right now, the scheduled flights. So I think that's probably the route to go, where NHL and the Players Union together would arrange a charter flight full of NHL players from one of the cities, or a couple of the cities. Could be Stockholm, Helsinki, for example, and that could get the players and their families, spouses on the flight. And if you're on those private planes, I think the quarantine is not there, and as long as you're not going on public transportation, as far as the NHL is concerned. So we're expecting them back at least, I'd say, a week or two before we get to that phase 3, which would be training camp. But I think that the government wants to see professional sports getting back, so I think they'll be in cooperation with the league as far as the getting into the country, the homeland security, all that stuff. So I think those will get solved. I think there are a couple other things that we need to solve as well, where some of the contracts are ending at the end of June, and now this could go a little bit further. So that involves with some of the visas expiring at the end of June. So there's a lot of different things that we have to figure out. But I think the league has a great handle on it. They've done their research on what needs to be done, what hurdles we have to get over to get moving, and everything is moving in order. We get to phase 2 soon here. Hopefully, open the facilities for guys to work out, and then, as I said, probably a week or two before, we'll have everybody back here participating in phase 2 and getting ready for phase 3, which is training camp.
You mentioned those contracts, because normally the contracts do end on June 30th, and as you said, visas are tied to those contracts. I know that you're dealing with this, but there are certain people within the organization that have jobs, the immigration thing to work on that especially. But as a general manager, with the contract situations, and then you put that visa complication on it after that, how much more difficult is that making it, or what kind of changes, I guess is the way I should say it, what kind of changes are you having to make as a staff to get the information from the league and find out what changes have to be made and then implement those?
The league's done a really good job. They're sending memos every day. We're kind of editing those just a little bit to make sure that we add whatever it would be just for our organization, and we've been sending them to our players, if not every day, regularly every week, a few times, and making sure that our players stay informed from not only the Players Union but from the team and the league. And league's been great. They've covered every topic. They've listened to our suggestions, ideas, and they put all those things together and informed the whole league on what's going on. And as I've mentioned before here, things are changing very, very quickly too. We all watch the news and see the different developments on what's going on, and every day brings something new that we have to solve or react to.
Yeah, a good point. And we're talking about maybe another month or so before you even hit that phase 3. Who knows what it's going to look like in that time. Here's a good question from Zach Paquette, who says, how vital was it to the team's success, especially for the future, to sign both Elvis and Jonas to multi-year contracts this year? And how do you see their playing time being divided up when they're both healthy?
Well, goaltending is a unique position. It's a little bit different. If we have 2 goaltenders that were both kind of starters for us this year, and all of a sudden we'd have both of them dragging and not under contract, and we're getting closer to the next season. That it's a little bit different than missing 2 wingers or 2 defensemen. You could kind of get into your depth a little bit easier than you can get in the position of goaltending. There are 31 or 32 or 35 maybe goaltenders that could be considered as starting goaltenders on the whole National Hockey League. So yeah, it was very important. It was a priority just because of the uniqueness of the position. And they showed us this year how important they are for our success. They both played great. Corpy earned a spot in the All-Star game before he got injured, and Elvis took the torch from there and kept us in the running and played unbelievable for us. And just, him being in his first year in North America, there's obviously a lot of potential in both of those guys. Corpy getting the first opportunity to play minutes of a starting goalie. I think the ceiling's going to be real high on where those guys can get to with their potential. They're both still young and both very hungry to get better and to improve. So I think we're in great situation with those two goaltenders. And I've mentioned it a few times today that the internal competition is great. I think it's going to push both those guys to on individual level to keep getting better, because that's what you need to do in order to get ice time. So I think it'll be a great luxury to have with two good, very talented, competitive young goaltenders competing for ice time, pushing each other and making our team better that way.
And how important can it be going into this return to play? Because right now you're set up to do a play-in series with the Toronto Maple Leafs. That'll be a best of 5. But if you can get through that, if you can make a long run in the playoffs, to be able to have not just one guy, but two guys, and you can rely upon whichever one's hot, whichever one's playing better at the time, how big of a luxury do you see that as being?
I think it's huge. It's not going to be. There's not going to be a lot of days to rest when we get to the tournament and start playing. It's not going to be. Most of the playoffs are every other day anyway. But sometimes with the travel and the scheduling, you could have 2 days in between. Sometimes maybe even 3. I think it's going to be every other day. Bang, 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 and to have a fresh goaltender for every game available potentially is going to be a luxury. And it's going to be a tough competition for those two guys. I really do think that they're both very talented, both very eager to prove that they should be the number one. But at the same time, we've seen examples around the league where, Boston, for example, Tuukka Rask had a Vezina level of regular season until it got halted, and they divided the duties fairly evenly with Halak, and that goes to show that when you stay fresh and don't overplay the goalies, they can perform better. And I think that the whole league has taken notice how they've divided the duties. And obviously, not every team has that luxury of having two fairly equal goaltenders. And we have that right now, and it'll be a huge advantage to our team.
All right, here's a couple of fun ones for you right here. First of all, Marilyn Willis wants to know, are there any films of games out there with you in them as a player?
Actually, a friend of mine from Boston just texted me the other day that the reruns are going that far back that he saw me in a game on TV. So I don't know if he was just jabbing me about how old I am, but it had to be a little bit lucky too, because I didn't play that many games in the NHL. So both going that far back and into the early 90s, or may have been 89 even. It was my first year as a pro here in North America, and to get one of the few games that I got to play in the National Hockey League. That's a pretty good luck.
If somebody sees one of those, where can they find you? Where should they look for you on the ice?
On the bench.
Here's another question for you. This one's from Matthew Butler. Wants to know, have you gotten some of your honeydew work completed around the house since the season went into pause?
Oh, I'm not sure. This could be a tough one for my second English as second language. I'm not sure what the honeydew work is, but if it refers to like any of the home improvements or stuff like that, then I'm definitely not the guy for that.
That is where the wife says, "Honey, do this," and there's a long list.
Okay, I got you. So you learn something new every day. That's what
there you go.
Say. Yeah, no, I'm like this. I can't. It's bad. It's bad.
I was going to say, every once in a while I scroll through Instagram and I see some of your posts, and I don't really see any of the honeydew stuff on there.
No, that's not pretty. It's better for the house if I don't touch it. Let's put it that way.
All right, that's fair. I can relate to that. There's no doubt about that. Let's see here. Here's a question from Brian Ginsey. As analytics begin to take more of a prominent role in hockey, can you give an explanation of how your front office uses and deploys advanced statistics in the analysis of players, both preparing for the draft and players already on the team?
Yeah, we do it all the time. We have Josh Flynn, our assistant general manager, who heads that effort, and he's great at it. We hired a fellow by the name of Zach Urbach, who's another lawyer and has a hockey background. He's worked with the junior team, Mississauga, in the OHL, and he's another one of those young geniuses in the analytics. So those two guys are our bread and butter in that area. They do a great job. They're always on top of things, finding new things, taking the initiative. They're creative. They're thorough. They keep us guys that have learned it a little bit later or gotten used to it a little bit later than they did afloat. So they're our I couldn't keep up with the analytics if we didn't have those two guys on board. So I can't thank them enough. They do an unbelievable job. And yes, we stay on top of those things, both on junior side, American League, National Hockey League, for free agent signings, trades, draft. Everything now has that side to it. And as I said, we try to stay ahead of the curve too. Then those guys are always looking for ways to beat the other teams.
And I think that, as you just said, they're a little bit more ahead of it than you are, and you're learning as you go along too. I think that you guys are very good at meshing the two, the old school way of doing it and the new school way of doing it. I think you and your staff is very good at incorporating the eye test with the analytics to make sure everything is balancing out. Am I right?
Well, I think that's what we want to do. I don't think we ever want to forget the eye test. I don't think we ever want to forget the importance of character and some of the other intangibles that are a little bit tougher to measure than the things you can see on the ice. And so I don't think you'll ever want to just do analytics and not the eye test and not the importance of face-to-face contact, getting to know the person, not only as a player, but as an athlete and as a human being, is so important. And not only in management, but in coaching and the relationships that you build within the team. Those things are the ones that make it work. And the winning comes from that, where coaches and players and develop those relationships where they trust each other and like each other and become friends and want to go to every battle and get through it together. Those are not as easy to measure as I said the things on the ice are. But yeah, we want to try to combine and take parts of the both worlds to in order to get ahead of the curve.
All right, I've got a couple more here for you. Let's see. This is from Mac Hartwell. What can you tell us about discussions and your plans to re-sign any of the restricted free agents, in particular Josh Anderson? Because you talked about the goaltenders and you got that done, and that's great. You do have another couple of high-profile guys that at some point you'll have to get to during the offseason, whatever the offseason turns out to be.
Yeah, it's a process. Always is. Some get to the goal line quicker, and some take a little bit more time. Obviously, Josh has been a great player for us. We love him. We'd like to have him under contract, and we're working on it. And Pierre-Luc Dubois is another one that we want to sign and have him be a big part of our future. And everything gets solved in due time, and whenever that is, we'll make the proud announcement. But both great young players that have been a big part of our success, and hopefully are going to be that for the future as well.
Sam Scilia wants to know, how often do you and the hockey operations staff, including John Tortorella, meet since the season has been put on pause?
Well, we're doing these Zoom calls regularly with our management. We had our first ever virtual amateur final scouting meetings for preparing for the draft for over a period of a week, because I don't think that you can be on Zoom for 8 hours a day. I don't think it's productive, and everybody would probably go nuts. So we did 3-4 hours a day, and stretched it out over more days than we would have normally. We've had pro scouting meetings on Zoom. We've Torts doesn't like Zoom. I don't know. Maybe he has the face for radio like you do,
Yeah.
So Torts' phone, old school. We're on the phone with Torts, and regularly. I wouldn't say every day, but regularly. Whenever something comes up, I talk to him, and almost just like I would if we were going to the rink. But as I said in the beginning, sometimes these things take a little bit longer now, because you have to go through different groups at one time, instead of going to the rink and sort of moving from room to room and getting things done there in an hour. You have to schedule Zoom calls over the course of the day, and it takes a little bit longer than it has when you have the normalcy of going to the office and dealing with all the people right there. But we try to stay in touch with the players through these information emails that we send them whenever we get some new information from the leagues. Tor's been sending the weekly quiz to the players, which has become a fierce competition among them, who answers quickest and gets the most points to avoid some of the extra skating Torch is going to give them and come the training camp for 2021 season. And there's all kinds of different things that we've been trying to do, and just staying engaged with each other, and sometimes see each other like this, if not possible, face to face. I've gone to the office a few times and met with some people, and with the social distancing rules and masks on and so forth, and just getting ready for this phase 2. Right now, we had to meet with the staff that would be in place there, which is the medical staff led by Mike Bogt, and the strength and conditioning staff, Nelson Ayot and Kevin Collins, and our equipment guys. So we met with those guys in the locker room, wore our masks, and stayed 6 feet away from each other, and talked through things that we needed to talk through in order to be prepared for the phase 2 starting here shortly.
All right, I've got one more question for you, and it'll be from Catherine O'Hara. What about the Seattle team coming in, and what is the player protection that's going to happen this time around? What do you see happening to the Blue Jackets in this and the expansion draft?
It'll be the same rules as it was last time. So every team's going to lose a good player, no way around it. And this time we'll have a little bit more experience than what we've learned from the past, and we'll try to prepare the best we can, but knowing that we're going to lose a good player, and that's how they're going to keep the league competitive and give Seattle their money's worth. They paid $650 million to get the franchise, so they want to get a good team right off the bat, and that's the only way to make sure that happens, is having expansion draft rules like they are in place now, which are completely different for Vegas and Seattle than they were in the past. But we want competitive balance in the league. That's one of the big advantages of the NHL, and part that NHL has done, I think, better than any other league in North America, in keeping that competitive balance and parity. And you see that every year, where any team in the league has a chance to make the playoffs and even win the championship. So Seattle will be a good team right away when they come to the league, and it'll be another interesting story.
Are you in a better position this time around? I mean, the last time you had some guys that, you're trying to decide, you're trying to, make sure that you kept certain guys, and you had the David Clarkson situation where you were able to get rid of that contract. Are you a little bit more free this time around?
Yeah, I think our timing, by luck, will be a little bit better this time. Last time it was just unfortunate the way it unfolded, that it meant that we were going to lose a real good young player. This time I think we'll be a little bit luckier that way. A lot of teams had it the other way in the first one, and they might lose a bigger part of their future in this one than they did last time. So it's just the timing, and we have to plan around it, and that's what we'll keep doing now for the rest of the the time before the expansion draft happens.
You going to go grow a playoff beard before we go back to play?
Not if it's going to look like yours, but mine, I don't think mine comes in as well as yours. So I think
Come on, man! It took me
yours
3 months. It took me 3 whole months. I'm glad the season was paused.
it'll only take 30 minutes to shave that off. Just so if you need some help, I got some things that you can use to get it shiny.
I might take you up on that for sure. Jarmo, thanks a lot for taking time and answering the questions today. I know people appreciate your time and appreciate your thought and your answers. I always do as well. So best to you and your family, and staying safe and getting prepared to come back to work whenever that may be, hopefully sooner than later. But enjoy the rest of your time before it's time to get right back at it full time.
Thanks, Bob, and thanks for the great questions. And hope to see all the people at Nationwide Arena soon.
That is Blue Jackets General Manager Jarmo Kekalainen, and this has been Hockey from Home, presented by Nationwide.